Television has spent decades convincing us certain relationships are the ones to aim for. The couple everyone in the friend group is quietly rooting for, season after season, waiting for the moment it finally happens. But look closely at some of the most beloved pairings in TV history, and what's actually making them work often isn't chemistry at all. It's dysfunction, dressed up well enough that nobody clocks it as dysfunction until years later, usually in a comments section, usually starting with, "Wait, actually."
Plus, Marshall's found the love of his life, even if I was ready, which I'm not. But if I was, it's like, okay, I'm ready. Where is she?
Ask someone to name their favorite TV couple, and odds are they'll name one of the 5 relationships in this video. Ask a therapist to look at the same 5 without the soundtrack, the lighting, and 10 years of narrative framing doing the work for it, and you'd get a very different answer. This is a ranking of TV's most toxic relationships, not by how badly they end, but by how well the show convinced you it was love instead of a pattern worth walking away from.
We barely know each other, and you're looking at me with that look, and it's like...
What?
It's
what?
Like, let's fall in love and get married and have kids and drive them to soccer practice.
I'm not going to force sports on them unless they're interested.
In this video, I'm ranking 5 of television's most toxic relationships, worst to, well, most toxic, and breaking down what's actually happening underneath each one. Not just the drama, the specific mechanism, anxious attachment, obsession, avoidance, control, that got mistaken for passion.
I don't want to be single, okay? I just want to be married again.
Ross and Rachel are the relationship Friends spends 10 years insisting is destiny. And it works on people because breaking up and getting back together over and over does produce real emotional highs. That's not in question.
You're going on a date.
The problem is, people read that intensity as depth. A relationship that keeps breaking and reforming isn't proof of how strong the bond is. More often, it's proof of how unstable it actually is, and how neither person ever quite figures out how to make it stable in the first place. We Were on a Break is the clearest example. It was never really about the technicality. It's Ross needing someone to blame, instead of sitting with an uncomfortable, ambiguous ending, and Rachel's own need for reassurance meeting him halfway there. Watch what actually happens in that fight. Ross sleeps with someone the same night the relationship ends, then spends the rest of the season, and honestly the rest of the show, litigating whether that technically counts as cheating. That's not a man processing a breakup. That's a man who needs the ambiguity to stay unresolved forever, because a clean answer would mean taking responsibility for something he'd rather keep arguing about instead. The show treats their eventual reunion like it was earned, like 10 years of on and off finally crystallized into something solid.
Hey, let's do Julie. What's wrong with her?
She's not Rachel.
Structurally, almost nothing about the actual pattern changed between the first breakup and the last one. Ross is just as jealous in season 9 as he is in season 3. Rachel is just as prone to running from things that scare her. The show just stopped showing us the parts that would remind us of that and let the finale's music cues do the convincing instead.
And there she was.
How I Met Your Mother frames Ted and Robin as fate, the true ending waiting behind 9 seasons of everything else. But watch how Ted actually treats her, and there's a gap that never really closes between who Robin is and who Ted keeps hoping she'll become. She tells him more than once, plainly, early in the show and repeatedly afterward, that she doesn't want marriage or kids. He hears it, nods, and keeps quietly waiting for that to change anyway, treating her actual stated boundaries like an obstacle to outlast, rather than a fact about her.
What about your guy? It's midnight. Go kiss him.
Yeah, he kept me waiting. And keep him waiting.
Well, a deal is a deal.
This shows up most clearly in how Ted narrates their entire history to his own children. He frames Robin as the one who got away, the almost, the great love hiding behind every other relationship he had. But at no point in that narration does he seriously reckon with the fact that she told him clearly what she wanted from life. And it wasn't what he wanted from her. He doesn't hear that as information about a real person. He hears it as a temporary setback in a story he's already decided the ending to. That's a quieter kind of toxic. No screaming matches, easy to miss, because it's dressed up as devotion instead. But loving someone for who you're hoping they'll turn into, instead of who they've already told you they are, isn't patience. It's just not listening, with better production value.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I understand. It's fine. Yeah.
And the ending, where Robin's own stated wishes get quietly overwritten by the plot anyway, her career, her independence, her clear preference for a life without kids, all gently pushed aside so Ted can finally get his fairy tale, mostly proves the point instead of resolving it. The show frames it as romantic. It's really just Ted finally getting what he wanted, 30 years later, from someone who spent decades telling him she wanted something else.
What's wrong with you?
I get it. You've never been in love.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Carrie and Big might be the most discussed will they won't they in TV history, and one of the most retroactively picked apart once people actually started paying attention, instead of just enjoying the tension. Big is warm one week and cold the next for years. He leaves her at the altar, in front of everyone, in a wedding dress she only bought because he pushed for the big wedding in the first place. Disappears for long stretches. Shows back up right when she's finally started to move on with someone else, always with just enough charm to make leaving him again feel unreasonable.
Date? No, he called it a thing. He said, meet me for a drink thing.
That inconsistency isn't an obstacle the show slowly works through. It's basically the entire engine Sex and the City runs on for 6 seasons and 2 movies. Every time the show needs tension, Big gets colder. Every time it needs a payoff, he gets warm again, just enough to reset the cycle. Carrie's friends spend years telling her, on screen, that this isn't healthy. The show lets them say it, and then has the story reward Carrie for ignoring them anyway. There's a name for what keeps people hooked on this kind of pattern: intermittent reinforcement, where inconsistent reward, sometimes warm, sometimes cold, ends up creating a stronger pull than steady affection would. The uncertainty itself becomes the thing keeping you there, because you're not just waiting for affection, you're chasing the unpredictable moment it might reappear. Carrie doesn't stay because Big is reliably good to her. She stays partly because he isn't, and the unpredictability keeps her chasing whatever version of him shows up just often enough to justify waiting around. The show rewards all of that with a wedding, eventually, quietly, almost as an afterthought, as if 6 seasons of exactly this pattern were simply the price of admission to it. Real intermittent reinforcement almost never wraps up that neatly and rarely deserves to.
I fell in love with a certain version of her.
You is useful here specifically because it's more recent, more widely recognized as toxic already, and gives you a clear contrast against the older, cozier entries on this list.
Who are you? Based on your vibe, student. Your blouse is loose. You're not here to be ogled, but those bracelets, they jangle.
Joe's relationships, first with Beck, later with Love, run on constant attention, elaborate gestures, and a narrated inner monologue working overtime to convince the audience his obsession is actually love. He researches Beck's entire life before she knows he exists. He inserts himself into her world, with a level of control most people would recognize instantly as stalking if it weren't delivered in his calm, reasonable-sounding internal voice the whole time. What's actually useful about looking at this one closely, instead of just pointing at the obvious villain, is how much the mechanics overlap with the earlier, more sympathetic entries on this list, just turned up loud enough that everyone can finally see it. The show even seems aware of this, dressing Joe's internal monologue in exactly the same language every romantic lead uses: fate, connection, the sense that this person is different. So the audience has to sit with how familiar that language actually sounds, coming from someone whose actions make the danger undeniable.
You made me feel like there's something wrong with me and I've done everything you asked when you've been lying to me this whole time!
Love isn't innocent either, once her true nature comes out. She matches Joe's intensity with her own controlling, possessive streak, which makes the whole thing less predator and prey than the show initially sets up, and more like two people whose worst instincts keep feeding each other, escalating in tandem rather than one simply victimizing the other. That's part of what makes their relationship genuinely disturbing, rather than just a straightforward cautionary tale. It's not one broken person and one normal one. It's two people whose damage happens to fit together perfectly, in exactly the way that makes it worse.
I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
Walter and Skylar top this list because their relationship does something the other four don't. It shows toxicity actually developing in real time in front of you. Instead of toxicity, the show frames as romantic right from the start. Skylar starts the series as a fairly ordinary spouse, frustrated with Walt's passivity, worried about money, entirely unaware of what he's actually doing.
This is a good neighborhood. It's got a good elementary and supposedly a very good high school. And believe me, because I have definitely looked everywhere.
By the end, she's been slowly pulled into complicity with her husband's criminal empire, threatened, financially trapped, worn down to the point where leaving stops being realistic, not because she stopped wanting to, but because Walter methodically closed off every door that would have let her. Watch how gradual this actually is. It's not one dramatic turn. It's a car wash Walt insists on buying to launder money that Skylar eventually has to help run. It's a storage unit full of cash she has to help hide. It's Walt telling her directly that she has nowhere else to go, that the danger to their children is greater if she leaves than if she stays. Each step looks survivable on its own. Stacked together across 2 seasons, they add up to a woman with no realistic exit left, engineered one reasonable-sounding threat at a time. This is coercive control, shown with more honesty than television usually manages. Not one dramatic moment of violence, but a slow pileup of threats, manipulation, and dependency that traps a partner well before any single moment looks bad enough to actually name. Walter constantly reframes his own controlling behavior as protection. Everything's for the family, which happens to be the exact justification abusers reach for in real life, with uncomfortable frequency. The show never asks you to root for this one the way it asks you to root for Ross and Rachel or Ted and Robin. But it belongs here precisely because it shows you what the other 4 are quietly built out of, just without a wedding at the end to soften it into a happy ending, and without a laugh track to make the discomfort easier to sit through. None of these get remembered as toxic first. They get remembered as iconic, the ones fans still argue about, still quote, still secretly want for themselves. Maybe that's the real pattern worth sitting with. Not that television keeps writing dysfunction, but that it keeps writing it well enough that people ask for more of it, mistaking the tension for the love story itself, long after the story already told them otherwise.